I jumped in my car and I was going to that club. And that is what I was doing when I went blind. I was driving on a highway at 90 miles per hour. And this is no joke. I lost my sight totally right then and there on the freeway going 90 miles per hour.
We face our problems every day. It seems they'll never fade away. The world may bring us down. Tonight we're gonna turn it around. So let's put it all on the table. Talk about it if you're willing and able. Life, love, and insecurities, and a laugh or two. Come and take a seat. So bring your concerns to us. Together we can discuss what's on your mind. No matter what you go through, just know we'll be here for you every time. Let's talk about it. Blind table talk. Let's talk about it. Blind table talk. We gotta be about it. Go ahead and walk the walk. So let's talk about it. Blind table talk. Let's talk about it.
What's going down, y'all? Welcome back to the Blind Table Talk episode. I am your host, Joe Fleeks. Y'all already know, security of the community. Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back. And I am your host, Sayyida Victoria, A.K.A. Sassy Sai. And I want to just thank you all for joining us again this week.
Yes, indeed. We appreciate y'all coming through, you know what I'm saying, and listening with us.
Yeah, we're going to keep this short because this is one of the things that we've been promising you guys. And this is part of our deep dive into Joe and Sai's.
Y'all get to learn about our beautiful, sassy side, y'all. Hey, man, like this is a big episode.
Yeah,
you know what
it
I'm saying?
was.
I ain't gonna talk too much, but I'm excited for y'all to really get to see who we chilling with.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It was, I guess, for me, I was a little nervous about sharing so much and sharing too much, sharing not enough. But I think it's
Man,
just,
you did a wonderful job.
thank you. It's just me.
sure.
I just wanted to just share me, right? So, but anyways, before we do that, though, of course, please be sure to check out our website at www.blindtabletalk.com.
Y'all know what it is.
Yes, and there you can get resources, upcoming events, and also sign up to join the email list right from there. So,
Yep. All that, and our YouTube page. Don't forget about that as well. You know, like, subscribe, and share. That is Blind Table Talk. Let's run it up. Let's get that going, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And don't forget about the little drawings and prizes that we have, which y'all doing. So don't
yes,
miss out, man. Like, get ready.
yes. And there's a lot more coming to Blind Table Talk, but for time's sake, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into the episode. But stay tuned, y'all. There's so much more coming.
Yes, indeed.
Blind table talk, yeah.
All right, listeners, we are switching things up this week just a little bit for y'all. I'm sure y'all have heard about our host interviews that we are going to be having for y'all. Joe and I are in the hot seats. I am up first. And what we're doing is having our beautiful podcast administrator, Christina Ford. She is going to be taking over and running this show for this segment. Welcome, Christina. Thank you so much.
Hey, everybody. Thank you all for having me. I'm so excited about these episodes. I think this is something that is definitely needed, and our listeners probably are so interested in finding out about the voices behind the voices. Like there's so much background and so many things that you all bring to the table that I want to make sure our listeners know just how relatable you all are. You're not just talking just to be talking, okay? So
yes. I know. I'm nervous and excited at the same time, but you know what? This is a long time overdue. I think that we owe this to our listeners as well too, and just to get them to have a better understanding a deeper understanding of who we are, right? And maybe when they listen to us every week and they hear us discuss and our views, and they can kind of now know and then, oh, okay, I could see why they would believe that or think that way,
Right.
so
Exactly.
that's what
Exactly.
so I'm like, you know what, it's time. And I'm just, just for our listeners, I'm looking forward to just being raw, vulnerable. I'm just gonna let it all out. No filters. And sometimes things might be a little uncomfortable to discuss or talk about, but when I get uncomfortable, when I feel that way, I think about it. No matter what, there is always somebody out there that can relate to something or, most things, a lot of things that I've gone through. And even if it can maybe inspire and empower others to go forward and move on, sometimes we need that. We need to hear that we are not alone.
All right, everybody. We're going to start off a little simple. I will let you all know that I asked Sayyida before this recording, like what was off the table, and she
Mhm.
did let me know that all signs are for go.
When you have to put a disclaimer, I'm like, oh, well, okay, wait a minute. What did I agree to here? But okay, I
Yeah,
got you. Come on. I'm
yeah.
not I'm not
So
I'm not scared, as they say. Bring it.
we're gonna start a little simple first, though. You know
Okay.
that we will get a little deeper later on, but keep listening, keep listening. It all
Okay.
makes up you, okay?
Okay. All right, let's
So
go.
the first part that we're gonna start off with is just a little background about this unique name that you have. Your name is Saida Victoria. Like
Yeah.
it's so different. I've never seen it before myself. I consider myself pretty well rounded, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not
Yes.
rounded enough to see it. But so where would that name
um,
originate from?
it's so funny because, the name, although I've grown into it now, I hated the name Saida growing up as a child. It's not a kid's name. Okay. It's just
Right.
not a kid's name at all. So, which is why, my family call me Sai. The story behind that is my father. My father was a professor in the college, right? And he had a student whose name was Saida. She was from the Middle East, and she barely knew any English, and she was new to the States. And but he liked the name. He just heard the name and liked it, and so he named me after her. And I guess my mother, she got to choose the middle name. And Victoria is my grandmother's name and also one of my aunt's names. So I was named after, Saida from Middle East and my grandmother, Victoria. But the funny part, this story is so funny. When my dad told me this, he ran into the original Saida about 10 years
Oh
after I was
wow.
born. Yeah. And she thrived. And the funny part is that she changed her name to Donna.
Oh, oh wow. So I guess she didn't like the name either,
she,
huh?
she
And I
so
wonder how
she
she felt knowing my professor named his
yeah.
daughter after me. Like, okay.
Right. But I think it's different coming from, being a foreigner coming to a new country and not, not feeling like you quite fit in as it is. And then your name is
I
so
could see that.
different. And so, here, I mean, and then of all the names to choose, you choose Donna. Like that's one of the most American names ever. So
Yes,
that kind of
yes.
so yeah, so I'm running around with her, Middle Eastern name, and she's running around, as Donna.
And
But yeah,
speaking of coming from another culture like that, like what is your heritage? Like, are you African American? Are you Hispanic? Like, let our listeners know because they're audio people. They don't see you.
yes,
So
right,
who are
yeah,
you?
and even seeing me can still be a little deceiving. I get people that are like still not sure what I am, right? So, so my father is black or African American. He is black. He is from Yazoo City, Mississippi, born and
Oh
raised,
wow,
and yeah,
sounds so
so he
country.
yeah no he and it's so funny because my daddy is so opposite of country. He
Oh
is so like,
wow.
yeah, I mean, he's the, he's one of the, whitest black men I know type
Well,
of
he's a
thing. So,
professor. I mean, I
right,
would hope he's
exactly. And
educated.
yes, exactly. So, and then my mother, who I like, she's actually Puerto Rican. She is from New York. Brooklyn to be exact, and from Puerto Rico. She'd never lived there, but and then she, and I always teased her because she's actually more blacker than my dad, quote unquote, right? So, so, so
Oh,
yeah, so
wow.
I am Puerto Rican and black.
Having these mixed cultures and things like that, like where did you grow up? Like what I know you currently now reside in Houston, and I do know you lived in California for a while, but where did you spend your childhood at?
Yeah. So, okay. So, I am from California. I was born and somewhat raised in the Bay Area. And that was until I was about, I guess, maybe 13, 14. I was with I was raised with my mother at that age. And my father was kind of, in my life, but kind of not the best. You know what? Honestly, I had a jacked up childhood, to be honest. It was not the greatest. I do have some good moments, that I remember here and there, far and few between. It was not really a great upbringing, a great childhood for me. I'm sure that there probably is worse, or I don't know. But for me, it wasn't the greatest. But that was spent. There was drug addiction. There was abuse, both sexual and emotional and mental. I had a lot. I went through a lot as a child, which is one of the reasons why I just can relate to so many different, and it's sad to say, but tragedies, devastations and things that have, made people's lives just, an impact on their lives for the worse that stuck with them for a long time. Because a lot of my childhood is affected who I was as a young adult and as a grown adult, and even now to this day, right? So I was with my mom, and then after something went down in my childhood with my mom, I actually ended up moving to my dad, and he lived in Southern California, in LA to be exact. I moved there when I was about 13 or 14. I felt like the situation that happened, I was, basically abandoned by my mother. I felt like the drugs and another man was chosen over me type of thing, which affected me as well. So I went with my dad, and then I go there, and my dad's married, and that wasn't the greatest situation. So I was just this lost little soul. Okay. At the age of, 13, 14, I went to my dad in LA, and new place, new family, and just, that was the whole thing. Then from there, I was 13, 14, very young, started out. By the time, let's see, 14, that was high school. I moved to San Diego when I was 17. And San Diego is from 17 until I moved to Houston. But that is my home. I love San Diego. And, that's, even though I was not there at the beginning of my years, I still consider San Diego my home more than anything, because that's where I pretty much grew up. so,
And
so yeah.
do you feel like either of those locations where you were living with either parent, were they considered rural, suburban, or were they what some would consider the hood? Like what was the
So
status?
let me tell you, with my mother, I don't even I really I can, a lot of it was probably hood. I don't know. I don't even remember half the stuff. I went to so many schools, at elementary schools. I can't even. I envy those that can say, "Oh, I went to so and so elementary school," like all their childhood. I moved so much. I have no idea where I lived half the time, if it was hood, if it was not hood. And even if it was hood, I probably didn't even know what a hood was, even because I just thought it was normal, whatever it was. So I bounced around a lot as a younger child. The stability I had was in sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And that was in junior high. And that was stability because my mother was married to somebody who was in prison. And she moved to the city where the prison was. And we lived there for that 3 years. And that was the only stability I had with that. So.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
so,
that was just so she could be close to him and
to
get to go
F
visit and all
it
that.
exactly, and go every day is what she did, and we got dragged to the prison, and there was times when we got dragged, and then this is part of my physical abuse. Though we used to go to the prison to when they used to have, I don't know if they still do it now, but it was called family visits, right, where the whole family goes and stays in an apartment for the weekend, blah 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 blah.
Oh, wow.
And so
Okay.
we would go there, and he would like beat our ass for stuff that we did, I guess, since the last visit, like
Oh,
to punish.
wow.
Oh yeah, it was
So
crazy.
he was still trying to pretend to be
But
a
yeah, and
father
he and
figure, you know.
exactly yes. So, but that was the only stability I had in that in my childhood with my mom as far as where I lived. It was just all over the place. So, and then when I moved to my dad, he lived in L.A. and there was stability there. Unfortunately, I did not stay in that too long. I think I was there about 2 years before I left there and went with is now my first ex husband. So there you go.
Okay,
So,
okay. How is your relationship now with both parents?
me and my daddy, I still I love my daddy. He's in LA still, and oh my God, when I say this, I guess this makes I'm old too, but my daddy is 70. Oh my God, he'll be 77 this year.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he'll be 77, and he's awesome. I love him, and I don't see him as often as matter of fact, he has not. I've been in Houston for 10 years. I haven't seen him. He hasn't came to Houston not once since I've lived here. And Houston was one of his favorite cities to visit. But we talk, and so I love my daddy. My mother is, she actually stays with me now. And with people, if anybody out there knows how that is, so the thing with my mother is, so much of my childhood, she was on drugs, okay, addicted to drugs. And she's been clean for about a little over 20 years now, shout out to her. But I've also been blind for 20 years now. So right before I went blind, she got clean. And so now it's almost like, I don't know. She needs me to need her, I guess. And so she's one of those ones, and I'm sure my listeners, you have heard us complain about those people that, want to over help you and do this and do that because, they need you and you can't do this and you can't. And my mother is one of them.
Who were you before blindness? What was your career? What type of individual were you?
I went blind when I was 30. So I did, I lived a pretty full life. But I had, been married. I was a mother. I was a mother of four. My main career was customer service. I did that. But really, who I was then, I was not really a nice person. I don't think I was who I was intended to be. I was a very bitter, angry person. I was very shallow and vain person. I had a whole bunch. I was ugly, honestly. I'm just gonna say that I was
And she
ugly.
just means on the inside, and she's always
Uh,
been pretty.
no,
That's not what she means.
but you know what? Being blind, that's what matters to me. I don't care what you look like on the outside because you can be the ugliest person ever, but still be very beautiful to me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Definitely.
so even though my outside shell, which was part of my vainness, right? Because I put a lot into how I looked, but I had been married for 10 years. I went through a very, very toxic relationship that was filled with domestic violence. I was a battered woman. Well, you know what? I don't even want to. Well, I found out later that it was. Those women that say, oh, this is not domestic violence because I always,
Because
I
you're
hit
fighting
first.
back. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. It took me a long time to realize this, but even though I started the physical part of it, because I was very hot tempered, um, very mouthy. I have a mouth on me that is
That's
you
probably
know,
that
just
New York part and
yeah, that
that
Puerto
came from
Rican
your
in me.
mom.
Yeah. So I was very mouthy. And so, you know, I probably instigated a lot of the things that I have. Now, this was somebody who was, you know, he was a cheater and cheated. And I was with this person for 10 years, right? And this was my second husband, actually, because my first one was my, you know, childhood sweetheart, but I didn't really do, you know, too much with that. I think that was still part of me growing up, and that I was with him. I think too because I found in him and in his family that love that I had been looking for so long, right? And so that's what I was him, and I had two children with him actually. So when I got to my second one in this relationship, I was not that. I still liked me then. I felt like I was still kind of a kind-hearted, soft-hearted person, and dealing with that 10 years with that toxic, abusive relationship, it hardened me to a point that that's when I started. And at that point, I did not like me then because you know, I still thought I was the, you know, so, but looking back, I see that's where it started, and that relationship that made me a very um, shattered person as far as having any faith in love and marriage and happiness and happily ever after type of stuff. So that was that. I was I was a partier. I used to go out to the clubs quite a bit. And then I would, um, but then I also had, you know, fun, you know, family time because I was also a mother. I was also a team mom of my kids, you know, football team. I did all the, you know, sports with my kids. I did that. So it was almost like I was two people back then as well. Because during the day, I went to work every day, got home from work, took my kids to practice, you know, put my kids to bed, and then I was going to the club type of thing. So, so that was in between the marriage that I had because we would, that toxic relationship, we would break up and I would catch them cheating. We'd break up for a month, 2, 3 months. I would take them back, which was toxicity in itself. And people were like, well, why do you keep taking back? You stupid. But what people don't realize is I took him back because that's what worked for me.
Right.
And it kind of answers a lot of to who I am now and why I am now with relationships because um, it worked for me in the fact that when I wanted to be in a relationship in a healthy, happy life, it lasted, and that usually came when I would take him back. And in the beginning for that month, it was what I wanted, and then once he got back to doing the cheating again, then I would kick him out. And now I'm alone again and single again and happy. And when I got tired of being single, then I would take him back. So you know, it was a mess. I just I'm telling you, toxicity at its finest. Okay, you know. Other than that, I you know, like I said, a mom, a wife, and kind of living my two little lives. But I was just a bitter, angry person.
So now, like we've gone through this pre blindness stage, and where were you in life when you started to lose your sight? Like, were you in a marriage? Then, how many kids did you have at that time? How old were you?
When I discovered I was having problems with my eyes, which, by the way, explained I had got into quite a few car accidents. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and I didn't put this with this after at this time, but I was sitting at home, and I went to rub my eye, and I covered my good eye, and so when I was covering my eye, I realized that I couldn't see anything out of one eye. Okay, and so it was crazy because I never, you know, I didn't think anything about it. But remember that toxic relationship I told you I
Right.
was in?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I had thought that my vision loss originally was from that because when I discovered that I couldn't see out of one eye, the night before, that happened, there was a very physical altercation between him and I, to the point where we were driving and he reached out and punched the side of, punched my eye, which I called my bad eye because that's the eye that I couldn't see in. And I hit the window, the passenger window, so hard that I actually blacked out. And so when the next day, when I did that, I'm just like, I can't see. And so, naturally I'm thinking like this one, I done went blind. He done knocked my sight out my eye. Right.
But
So,
were you still sitting at the house with where he was?
girl,
Like,
after that, girl, I had stop it. See, there you go. Look at you. At this point, after when I realized that the makeup had already happened, we were in, oh,
ah.
we were back in, I love him so much stage. Okay. Right. So yeah, that's what's crazy. And I'm telling you, girl, just looking back at some of it, this is why when people tell me about these relationships and situations, I don't judge anyone because
Right.
baby, I trust me, I've been there. I know what you going through. I know. So but yeah, so no, we were good. And to the point where when I went to the um, doctor, because I went to at first I went to the regular eye doctor, then they sent me to the specialist, and who was right by my side? He was right with me, helping me, go through this. And so we get into the doctor's office, and she's like, we just can't understand and can't figure out why, what's the problem is, what it is. And so I was tested for, I got tested for so many things. I can tell you what I didn't have. I got spinal taps. I had everything. There was nothing. Lupus. They tried to say it was for anything, but everything was negative. So finally, I'm like, I wanted to figure out a way to try to ask her if this hit that he did, the way that he hit me could make, I'm trying to tell her that, this could be the reason, right?
Right.
But of
Right.
course he's with me,
He's right there.
and I'm
So,
in my but even if he wasn't, I'm still in love. I was still happy with him. So
yeah.
he
Yeah.
wasn't the abuser at that time. He was my husband, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and so I even told her, I said, um, last week, my little lion self, see, this is what God don't like ugly, but whatever. Um, I said last week I was at the bowling alley, and because I used to bowl quite a bit, I love bowling. I was at the bowling alley, and there was some. Oh, I went to the lane to throw my ball, and I slipped really, really hard. I slipped and I hit my head really hard on the floor, and I blacked out because that is how hard. I mean, could you imagine how hard that hit would be, right? I was just trying to
Right.
think of
Right.
something that would be equivalent to how hard I hit this window in this car that was caused by my loving husband. Okay.
Right. Right.
So, and then she was like, no, that would not cause this, this is not, that we would see something different, or, so she told, but even though I still, after that was still, because I would blame him every time we got to an argument. You made me go blind. You made me lose sight out of my eye and all this type of stuff. Right. And so then when she said that, he was like, well, I didn't do that. The doctor told you it wasn't that. And, so that became that. But you couldn't tell me nothing. I still believed it was him. I
I don't
still
know. I
believed
think
that
I
had
might
to.
will still believe it too.
I did. Right. Exactly. So, anyways, that happened in 99.
Okay.
Okay. In
That's
1999.
and that's the first eye,
That
right?
was the first time. Now, we couldn't figure out what it was. We couldn't figure out anything. Because I could see still and still, function. I just let it go. I was tired of being. We didn't know, so I let it go. So from 99 to 2004, I lived with, sight with one eye, and this is where all those accidents would come. My kids will tell you, I mean, thank God I never, hurt anybody, my kids, myself, but there was a few accidents that I was in, from, my sight that started before I realized I couldn't get sighted, but I wore glasses on my one good eye, just as I see stuff that was far away and stuff like that, and that's when in 2004, I was driving and, you know how you have the yellow, green, and red light on the
Mm-hmm.
thing? Well, when I'm driving, it was no colors on it.
Oh, wow.
It was just lights. And luckily I knew what, where the red, green, and light, because if it just was based on colors. So it started. So I started thinking, I was like, well, you know what? Let me go. I think I need to go to, LensCrafter and get a new prescription, because these glasses ain't working the way they used to. So when I get to the doctor's office, and you know how they do which one is better, this one or this one, this one or
Yes,
this one?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, there was never any difference. Nothing worked. It was all the same. Okay.
Wow.
So I go back to work, and, I'm making stuff on my computer big, and, that only lasted for four, maybe I think 5 days. On that fifth day, which was a Friday night, which I'll never forget.
I
And
was
I
gonna
went,
say,
I went
let's take some
totally
time,
blind.
because I want you to, because you've told us how toxic this relationship was, but I need
Mm-hmm.
my listeners to know how bad things can actually get in a relationship. Sometimes you need to pay attention to this, may be a
Yeah.
reason to really get out and stop. So,
Mm-hmm.
walk our listeners through what specifically you were doing when you went blind.
All right. I laugh because it's embarrassing. Um, but this was how my relationship was with him. Ladies, when I tell you, I had the biggest cheater ever. That's all he did. Our whole relationship was cheat, cheat, cheat. And I was just always, calling, reaching up, checking his phone, doing all that stuff, which is probably the reason why I do not do that stuff to this day. Like, if a man gonna cheat, he gonna cheat. But you couldn't tell me that then, because you wasn't about to cheat on me then, right? So it was Friday night, and it was 2 in the morning, and I'm at home, probably blowing his phone up because he was not home. And one of my girlfriends called me and told me that he was at a club downtown, and he was there with another woman. Okay. Now, a smart person would have, especially one that could barely see, would have just, dealt with that when he got home. Well, not me. I jumped in my car, and I was going to that club. And that is what I was doing when I went blind. I was driving on a highway at 90 miles per hour. And this is no joke. I lost my sight totally right then and there on the freeway going 90 miles per hour.
Wow.
So it just gone,
That sounds so scary.
oh my, I've never been so afraid in my life. Like that, especially because I was going so fast. And luckily, no, it ain't luck. It's thank God. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, because there wasn't too many cars on there. And then the other thing was that the highway, it was 94 highway for all my, San Diegans and that know, that highway ends, it turns into a street, like it, with stoplights at some point. Um, I don't, I don't know what it was, nothing but God. I'm sorry. I don't, people are like, well, what'd you do? And I'm like, I slowed down and pulled over. Well, I slowed down and veered, because I don't even know where I was pulling over to, right? I don't know. I was in the fast lane, and I started feeling it slope down towards when it turns into the street. Now, the crazy part is, when it turns into the street, there's cars that are parked on the side. So I'm even freaking out more. But, by the grace of God, I stopped, and I called 911. And, I'm like, I'm in the middle of the street. I cannot see. And they're like, well, what do of course, I don't know if they
They
thought it was a
probably thought you
prank.
was
Yeah,
drunk or
yeah,
something.
exactly. I was like, no, I can't see, And so, but here's the crazy part. Even while I'm calling 911, why am I still trying to call this fool?
And tell him what's going on.
Yeah. Like that should have
Wow.
been the least of my concerns, you know. But nope, I was
Isn't
still
that
trying to
Usher that
process.
say you got it bad?
Yeah, yes, yes. So yeah, so that is the final stage of my blindness. So that's when I lost it completely.
Okay. And you still at that time had only 4 kids, correct?
Yes. Hmm.
And what marriage were you on at then?
That was number two.
Two of how many?
Really? Two or four?
Yeah.
Okay. Two. I
Okay.
have been
Okay.
married 4 times.
Whew.
Times.
Wow.
Yes, I
Wow.
have
Okay.
two.
We gonna
Two
dig into
blind.
that.
Look, two and two. Two blind and two sighted.
Oh,
Okay,
see,
that
I didn't even
well,
know that part.
no, no, for me, not the people. I've only been married to sighted men, but I was blind.
Blind twice
Like
while you were
where
sighted twice while you were
exactly?
blind.
Right,
Okay, okay.
exactly.
Just back to the transition from going blind. Like, what was your support system like at that time? Because, like, I'm sure your kids were still fairly young.
Yeah,
Like, how
yeah.
did you deal with the transition? Did you go through any therapy or get any assistance with trying to transition to this new lifestyle now?
Not right away. So, like many of us, which I found out, later, which is why I do what I do now. But when I first went blind, I didn't know of any services out. I didn't know of anything. I didn't know anything was out there for me or us. I didn't know any blind people. I didn't know that blind people could thrive. I honestly, I thought my life was over. I really did. Of course, we all mourn per se in our own time, in our own ways, right? And I mourned the loss of my sight in a way, in a way of depression, a deep depression. Okay. Um, and the crazy thing is my husband at the time, actually straightened up for a minute during this time for me. And
You probably
it,
scared him too.
or either that or he was doing stuff and I just wasn't, investigative enough because of what I was going through my own thing. So either he hid it well, which he never really did. So I doubt it was that because that's what it was. But he was actually, and so I always, even though it was a very toxic relationship, during that time, and I guess when I needed him the most, he was actually there for me. Now, that didn't really last too long because as soon as he figured out I was okay, he was back to the same old thing. So, but thank you, who you are for at least giving me that time, and making me feel as if everything was going to be okay in that moment. And everybody's different, and I don't want people to think that there is a specific time frame that you have to figure it out and get it together, right? But
Right.
for 6 months after I went blind, and actually I could see like I went outside, it was I can see like a big old if a car was there, I can see a car. Um, to about 9 months later, I lost that sight, and it went really even worse completely. I used to be able to write with a very big marker and hold it up to my face, and I'd be able to see the numbers or something. But that went away not about 9 months after. And there's a funny story behind that too. Remind me if you remember of that. So, anyways, about 6 months, I cut out everybody, friends, family, nobody. I didn't want to see anybody. I wouldn't talk to anybody. Nothing. It was just me and my kids and my husband. Whoever lived in my home, that's who I dealt with, and that is it. But even with my kids, I didn't even come out my room hardly. Like they would come in my room. I mean, I was just and sunk into a depression. I don't even think I bathed like
Oh
the way
wow.
that I should. Like I just, girl, my life was over. Who cares? Bathing? I don't care. I don't care if I don't smell good. I'm about to, my life is over. I did not care about anything, which was sad because I had 4 young kids.
Right, right.
And but so the turning point for that was when my youngest child at the time, my youngest child was 5 when I went blind, and he came into the room. It was just me and him at the house, and he said, "Mommy, I'm hungry," and something just clicked in me, and I said, "Are you really?" going to sit here and, let your kids starve or let your kids see you uh, crumble at the first, the sight of, the obstacle or the challenge? Is this what you want your kids to see? How you are? And so right then and there, it just popped in my head. And I'm like, you know what? It's a wrap. It's over. It's done. I am no longer, I'm about to live this life. I'm blind. So what? It could be worse. And we about to do this. So I told my son, I said, you know what, son? We gonna make you something to eat. You know what's funny? Because he was like, you're not gonna call you're not gonna call dad? And that even made me feel even more stupid. Like, the hell I'm gonna call him for? No, we about to do this. I said, you know what? I just need you to tell. Well, come on, let's go. So I went and I was like, what's this? Oh, that's this, that. And so when I did that, I'm like, oh no, we about to fix this up. So that gave me when I did it and I, my son sitting down eating, I'm like, okay, I did it. Hold on, we got this. And so from there, I started saying, doing stuff like, we're about to mark these. I knew about, marking up my kitchen and doing all before I even went to the Center for the Blind, right? Because I'm like, we're about to make this house blind people friendly, a blind person friendly. Right now, I put dots and stuff. I put tape on different things, and so I started cooking. I started cleaning. I started, washing my kids' clothes. I started just living. I became a mother again. I became a wife again in that moment. And without my son coming in there to tell me he was hungry, I don't know how long it would have took, but I'm glad he did it. And I'm glad I only had to do that for 6 months. So,
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people that I know that, take a lot longer than that to
oh,
transition. You know,
yes,
it's
I have
just
to, I have to catch myself because, I work a lot with many, blind people now that have gone blind, and I have to catch myself because I look at them and I'm like, 3 years, girl, you should be like, this is not new to you anymore. Come on now, and
right.
I have to catch myself because that's not fair. I can't expect people to be like me. I don't care how much you tell somebody, girl, you just blind, you could do it. No, if they don't see it for
Yeah.
themselves, and I have to remember, I like to encourage and put nudge a little bit, but I cannot expect anybody to come into this acceptance when they're not ready in my time. It's not in my time, and it's not in any of our times. It's in each individual's time when they reach that acceptance level. I've said this before. I'm going blind has made me, I feel, a better person. I did not love myself. I didn't love me before I went blind, and I think that maybe that 6 months gave me some thoughts. I don't know what it was, but I had to grow to love me, I guess. But one thing I did realize is I like me so much better, the person I became after going blind, than I did before I was blind. That bitter, angry person that, I just being going through what I went through with this blindness, it has just it's changed me so much. And I definitely love me now. I do that. But what it has also done is it's pushed me and inspired me to be better and be a better person and to help others and to want to see others be successful in their blind journeys because it's tough. It's tough, especially losing sight all at once. Thank you to my son that got me out of my rut, right? And from there was just no stopping me. That's when I went to the Center for the Blind. I went, I did that, but, and this is another thing I tell people, you will not understand the full abilities that you have as a blind person until you get around those blind people, right? Because
Right.
you have to see it. So, and even then, I mean, I went to school. I did the center, independent living center for a little bit, which was, just locally. I never went to any blind school or anything, but then from there, I said, you know what, I want to go back to just go. I want to go to college. So I got a associate's degree in psychology, and I did that. I did an associate's because honestly, I didn't think I could do it at all. And I did that online. And you know what? For those of you who think online degrees are a joke, baby, let me tell you, if you can do an online degree, you're awesome because those things are so hard. I even tried before I went blind. I tried an online degree as a sighted person and failed. I quit. So, so I did this online degree, which was just very crazy. Okay. But I knew going for a 4 year, I needed to see some. I'm a type of person who's driven by achievements, right? 4 years was just too long for me to see success and to keep me going. So I broke it down to the 2 year. And so I did the online. I did that, graduated. I had that. Then I went back later and went for a degree in human services, which, that I did the 2 years in 2 years, but the second 2 years was spread out to about 5 years. It's sad to say, but it wasn't really the blindness part. It was just life and everything else. It was just, thing. But when I tell you,
Life was just life in her.
it was, but going in the first time I did a in-person course, I was like, I can't do online, and it's crazy because when I moved to Houston, I did have to do majority online because of the fact that they did not offer the program that I was in Houston, so I still had to do online classes. So I still, as a blind person, even though I was thriving um, and I thought that I was an independent person. I had started when I was in California. I'd started a nonprofit organization for inner city girls, youth, and I did that, and that was as a blind person. Of course, you get the oh my God, you're so amazing. So I got a lot of those for all of that. But the thing about that, though, honestly, is that I was not as independent and confident as I thought or that people may have seen. Okay. I was very ashamed of my cane. I did not use my cane. I was embarrassed of it. That was probably still the vainness in me because I just felt like I was too cute to have a cane. I mean, I don't want people looking at me. I don't. And so
Not for that reason.
No. And for 12 years, I was blind. I was that blind, independent person that wasn't really as independent as I thought. Okay. When I moved to Houston and I seen blind people like me, because I used to actually work at the Braille Institute in San Diego, and I was around blind people, but none of them were like me. It wasn't really my peers. And so I'm like, dang, this is my blind life. This is what I have to look forward to. Just I'm still alone in this, right? And when I moved to Houston, I met a bunch of blind people like me, and and so they would say stuff like, oh, I'm going to the store, we're going to the bar, we're going to the movies, and my question was like, oh, who's taking you? And they're like, I'm taking myself. I'm like, and I'm like, by yourself? Like, what? They're like, girl, yes. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, oh, I don't go no. And then to this day, and I will say this to whoever, when people ask what my greatest accomplishment was, my greatest accomplishment was going to Walmart by myself. And I have never felt so good and proud of myself in that moment when I did that. And let me tell you, when I did that, once I got my Metro and then with the cane too, I said, and I don't care what people think about this cane. Hey, I'll just make sure I look cute every time I walk out with this cane. But this cane is my eyes, and baby, I won't go nowhere if I don't have my cane. I feel like I'm just like I always say, I feel blind without my cane, and I'm sure my listeners probably know this, but because I talk about it a lot about being with the sighted person, a sighted husband. I told you, I mean, all of my husbands were sighted, but the last husband was sighted, and honestly, it was a big problem for me to be with it. And this is the crazy part because he was actually a very good man. He was a good husband. He was a provider. He never tried to make me feel less than about my blindness. And he, respected me as his wife and as the head of our household and everything. But girl, it was society, being with a sighted person as a blind woman, I always felt inferior, right? No matter what, because I am, you can see I cannot. So however you make me feel, my mind would not let me get over the fact that I will never be equal to you, and that is how I felt about that. And the cake was taken, when he gets out the car and goes around to open my door, which, by the way, he is just a gentleman and does that for anybody just because he's a gentleman, not because I'm blind, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes over to open the car, and the lady in the car, there's an older couple in the car next to us parked, and oh, God is going to bless you. That's what she tells him. And I'm just sitting there like, bless him. What are you talking about? God needs to bless me for putting up with him. I take care of him. Right. And so that's what I'm thinking. But guess what? No matter, I can think and say that all day long, but society is never going to see that. They're always going to see that this man is helping or taking care of this blind woman. And honestly, that was the end of my marriage. I divorced, and I just could not be with him anymore because I felt like it would stunt who I am because of society and all that stuff. Not that it's a good thing, because those are my own insecurities and my own issues. But I had always said I would never date a blind person, because the saying, well, what could a blind person do for me? You can't do nothing for me. I need somebody that's going to be able to do this. The same stuff I'm fussing about now is what I relied on for a blind person to do, right? I'm sorry, a sighted person to do, to take me here and do this. I need somebody that could see. After that, and then hit me in reality. And so now my standpoint is flipped. And now I will not be with another sighted person. I refuse to be with the sighted man. Which is why I will only, date and deal with blind people, because it's just not, I need that relatability. I need that equality.
So one quick question before we get into this dating and your views of love. Was this fourth marriage, if you listeners listen to the past episode, was this fourth marriage the one where you was the preacher's wife?
No, that was marriage number 3.
All right.
That was marriage number 3. For those of you that are keeping track, okay?
Blind table talking.
Alrighty. I guess I gotta stay tuned to find out more what's going to happen with this story.
Yes, there is so much more. And for those of you who are still with us and took the time to sit there and listen to my story, I really appreciate you. And next week will be the part 2. Don't forget, though, the other things that we have coming to the table. And we just want to make sure if anybody wants to join the BVI Roundtable, which will be coming back in the next couple of weeks.
Don't be scared, y'all.
Please come visit us. Yes, at the table. And we also are going to be launching our BTT Awards. Please look out for that. That is coming within the next week or 2. Those will be out.
The categories and our nominations, man.
Yes.
Let's appreciate our community, those that we have around. Let's get the flowers now, what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and do this.
Absolutely. Thank you all, listeners, and we'll see you all next week.
Be blessed, y'all.
Blind table talking.